Hello, good morning and welcome to a frigid Monza. The Autodromo Nazionale in the Royal Park at Monza is cold and damp, and we're ready for the start of a 3-hour FIA GT race, the opener of the season, the first of 11 races that will span 3 continents. Martin Haven and David Leslie ready to take you through the action from flag to flag, and it's a grid that's been dominated by Italian supercars. Maseratis filling the first 3 places on the grid, Ferraris mingling with them a little further back, and the Lamborghini as well. So Maranello and Sant'Agata well represented. America's supercar is here as well, with a Corvette C5R run by Mike-Antoine Hazemans, the GLPK Car Sport Corvette, resplendent in the familiar yellow and black Chevy colours. But it's Philipp Peter, the Austrian driver, on pole position, who starts this race in his Red Bull Maserati, one of 2 cars. 2 Vitaphone Racing Maseratis as well. Michael Bartels and Uwe Altsson so quick last year in the Vitaphone Racing Celine. This year the team have stepped up, and Bartels leads a 2-car Maserati entry. So 4 strong Maseratis leading the field, but Christophe Bouchou heads the 2 Russian teammates in this brand new team as well, Russian Age Racing. It's a ProDrive 550 Maranello Ferrari. These cars have won the championship in the last 2 seasons, and Bouchou is certainly chomping at the bit to get in among the Maseratis. Alongside him, Ferrari test driver Andrea Bertolini, who did the donkey work in developing this MC12. He shares with Carl Wendlinger. Their car lines up in 4th position on the grid. So some very strong driver lineups, and another good driver lineup here. Pedro Lamy starts the number 11 car. It's another of the Ferrari 550s, a pair of them run by the Labra competition team, so successful over the years with the Ferrari 550 Maranellos in the LMAS, and previous to that, of course, so many years great racing with the Vipers in the FIA GT series. We're going a little further across on the grid. Fabio Bobini and Thomas Biaggi, both former front runners, indeed Biaggi a former champion in the FIA GT series. They share the 2nd Vitaphone Racing Maserati. So there's a lot of new colours, a lot of new faces, a lot of new names to get used to. Peter Cox and Norman Seaman will start in the sole Lamborghini Murcielago RGT, this one being run by Reiter Engineering. And then it's Mike Hazemans, Anthony Kumpen and Bert Longin, the Belgian and Dutch combination in the Corvette C5R. Pucker Pratt & Miller built car, only arrived in Europe at last weekend, and it's a genuine factory-built race car, the same as were raced in the American Le Mans Series last year by the GM Corvette team, and that have won at Le Mans last year's 24 hours. So a bumper grid full of exciting supercars. Getting ready to get the pace lap underway. Our clerk of the course checking his watch. And then Senor De Freitas will give them the green flag as the 28 cars will head away on this warm-up lap. David Leslie, a fantastic array of Italian supercars leading the field. The much-vaunted Maserati MC12, the reliable 550 and 575 Ferraris, and then of course the V8 supercars, the Corvettes and the Celines, and the Lister and the Lamborghini in the big GT1 class as it's known this year, and of course Porsche's filling the GT2 category now.
Yes, without doubt, it's such a mixture, and a lot of new drivers, new teams, and some of the old drivers with new teams, so it's quite a big change from last year. A lot of these drivers are just getting used to their cars. Some of the cars you said earlier on just arriving this week or last week. In fact, the pole position, Philipp Peter was saying that he only got his car this week, and in testing on Thursday was the first time they actually managed to drive it. So from her arriving just this week and then having it on pole position for the very first race here for the FIA GT race, then you know, that's really good for them. They've been given a car that's obviously in excellent condition. Right at the back of the grid we can see there a black and yellow Celine. That's one of the Conrad cars. Unfortunately that car's had to go to the back of the grid because it had an engine change, obviously a problem during practice and qualifying, and part of the rules now say that if you have to change the engine before the race or after qualifying, then you have to go to the back of the grid, and that's one of the penalties that is in place.
Running down the grid there, you can see the Italian cars, the Ferraris and the Maseratis, really dominating proceedings here. But of course, speed in qualifying is one thing, the long run is what it's all about. The Lamborghini and the Corvette close on their heels, and then the Salines, of course, in the Vitaphone colours and the Conrad Racing colours, yellow of the Conrad Racing team last year. Very quick indeed, a slew of poles for Walter Lechner Jr. Now he's very unwell, still not sure this morning whether he will actually race in that Conrad car, the front runner of the pair of Conrad Racing machines, the other one driven by Bobby Verdenroe and Harold Becker, who you might remember for several years was a co-driver to Cor Oyser in the rainbow-coloured Marcus. Jamie Derbyshire and Sean Balfe for fans of American machinery who know their British GT racing. The Mosler MT900R, that is not in GT1 or GT2, it's in an invitational G2 category. They said, can we come along and bring our car? And the FIA GT series organisers said, well, it's not strictly homologated, but yes, you can come and race in the invitational category. And they offered them bigger wings and bigger restrictors, but the Balfe Racing operation said, no, we'll go with the standard restrictors and the standard wings we're used to from the British GT series, and we'll run with less power than perhaps we could do, but we'll try and race against the Porsches in the GT2 category. So everybody tense now, getting ready for the start of this race. Grandstands filling on this frigid Sunday morning here in April in Monza, and the Royal Park echoing to the bark of racing engines, V8s, V12s and flat sixes. Well, we've got a whole host of cars from different nations, drivers all finding their feet for the first time, most of them in brand new cars and brand new teams. There's been so many changes over the winter, so many new team lineups, so many new cars coming into this FIA GT Championship, and a bumper starting lineup of 28 cars on board with Andrea Piccini, the number 2 car, the GPC Sport Ferrari 575 Maranello. Andrea Piccini starting that, shares it with Swiss co-driver Jean-Denis Delatraz and their teammates Jean-Philippe Belloc and Jaime Melo. Their car not red, white like the number 2 car. It's arrived so recently, it's still in matte black, unpainted carbon fibre. But the 2 Red Bull cars, the 2 Vitaphone Maseratis, the Russian age racing Ferrari, all looking absolutely gorgeous in their new suits of clothes. There's the Mosler leading the GT2 pack, which is being headed at the moment by the 2 Gruppa M Racing Porsches, the factory-blessed team, which have come in from Great Britain. As the green light goes, the pole position man, Philippe Pater, guns the Maserati down to a very cold and pretty slippery first corner here at Monza. This long straight run down into the very tight first gear chicane, and the Russian age Ferrari beached out on the curbs, just keeping their noses clean. There's lots of door-to-door action, but everybody so far getting through straight. There's the Corvette in its very familiar yellow and black GM AUW Goodwrench colours from the American Racing Series, but this one run by Carsport and GLPK together. 3 hours of endurance racing around Monza underway, and David, everybody will be very glad indeed to get out of the Roggia and onto the run down to the Lesmos on this first lap. Everybody was fearing drama, and so far they seem to have got through unscathed.
Very much so. The first corner is always the biggest worry with these races, but even in an endurance race like this, everybody arrives there at the first corner thinking, will somebody make a mistake, will somebody lock up? As you look at the circuit, there are some little dark patches around the circuit. Now that is just a leftover from the rain from last night, so it's not 100% dry around. You can see on the inside of the circuit there, the tarmac's just that little bit darker, and it's making it a bit slippy, so it's still very cold, as Martin said earlier here. It takes a little bit of time for these cars to get the tyres up to temperature, and everyone's just tiptoeing around. One thing you want to do is make sure you get round the first few laps. You don't really want to start a 3-hour race with accidents on the first lap.
Well, you could just see Christophe Bouchou really monstering up behind the number 9 car for second place, and that number 9 driven by Michael Bartels, the team leader in the turquoise and black Vitaphone Racing Salines. Onboard camera from the the Salines, there you are, I've said it already, Maseratis, onboard camera from the Saline down the straight, showing the speed here at Monza. And Bouchou now being chased from behind. The yellow door mirrors are those of Carl Wendlinger's car. Wendlinger not starting his machine. He's in the pit lane, ready to take over at the end of the first stint in the second of the Red Bull Maseratis. It's Andrea Bertolini, the factory Maserati test driver, ahead of Pedro Lamy and Fabio Babini. Lamy in the first of the red and white Labra Run 550 Maranello Ferraris, and Babini in the second Vitaphone Saline. But already David, our pole sitter, determined to make a break, and he has done so. Bartels really got his hands full with Christophe Bouchou. Bouchou out of the FIA GT series on a regular basis for the last couple of years, really relishing getting his teeth into this 550 Ferrari.
Without doubt, Bouchou is very, very quick indeed. He's been in this series for a long time, not so much as you said in the last couple of years, but he really is giving Bartels a hard time, and Bartels is probably looking as much in his rear view mirror as he is looking where he's going forward to try and make sure he keeps Bouchou behind. And that's giving Philippe Peter just that little bit of breathing space, and he's been able to stretch himself away just little by little at this moment in time. But these little bits are what make the big difference over the whole 3 hours. You see Bouchou there, he's got his headlights on already. He wants past that Maserati, and he's going to try and make it.
Well, here we go at the start. Philippe Peter immediately getting the gun and leading the field, and Bouchou coming down the outside run. This is on board in the Pirelli shod Vitaphone racing car into that first corner, and Bouchou really being eased out of second place there. But you're right, and at the moment it looks like Michael Bartels in second place is holding up this queue. Bouchou in that red, white and blue, of course the colours of the Russian Federation, Russian age racing machine, rubbed by the Certec Motorsport team, so Rob Schill's team, really with a phenomenal piece of kit on their hands. And on board in the Vitaphone racing Maserati behind, changing down the gears. That was the look from Bartels' car at the leader, and he is really feeling the pressure. Bouchou right behind him at the moment, Bertolini in the Maserati, Lamy in the red and white Ferrari, and Lamy's making a move on the inside just behind this battle. He's got around, or he's being attacked by Babini, and Bouchou looking down into the Roggia, can't get his nose alongside. He just needs to get a little overlap, David, to make it too hard for Bartels to turn in, but Bartels is really defending hard here, and this is only lap 3 of the 3-hour race. Right behind them, Bertolini in the Red Bull car, all over this battle for second place.
Yeah, without doubt, the Ferrari 550 in the middle of these two Maseratis is trying his best to get himself up there, but in doing so, and really harrowing that black and green car, is finding it difficult, and the other Maseratis behind is sort of closing in all the time and looking for its opportunity to try and get past either one or both of these cars in front. But without doubt, these Bartels has got this lights in his mirrors that he's looking at and really worrying about all the time. And Bouchou is really pushing hard and making Bartels make a number of mistakes. Certainly when he comes to the first chicane, he's going in a little bit too quick, and then he's coming out too slow. And fairly shortly, I think that Bouchou's relentless pressure upon this Maserati in front is going to pay dividends.
It certainly looks like he needs to make the move, because he has got all sorts of attention from behind from Bertolini. Pedro Lamy now in 5th place. Babini had got by him into 5th position at the beginning of that lap, so Lamy down to 6 and being chased by Hazemans. So the red and white Ferrari, and Hazemans moving out in the Corvette. It's got that centre little lamp cluster in the middle, and it's got those ultra blue-white xenon lights in it as well, so very piercing light array on the Pratt & Miller built Corvette. And Mike Hazemans, well, when he gets a quick car, boy, he really makes the most of it. Hazemans a very, very aggressive racer indeed, and he's all over Pedro Lamy for that 6th position. Still Bouchou in the number 17 car in 2nd place. Of course, the championship now sponsored by GTR, the FIA GT official racing simulator. It's a PC game. If you haven't come across it yet, get on the website gtrgame.com, or just put it GTR into a search engine. It is the most phenomenal racing game so far produced, featuring all the official FIA GT cars from 2004, all the tracks. The teams and the tracks all gave their data and telemetry to make it the most accurate representation of the championship there has yet been. David, we've been playing this game in its development stages for the last 12 months. They're already working hard on GTR2, and a phenomenal game, and now the title sponsor of the series that spawned it as well.
Yeah, I mean, the game is like the pictures we are watching here and now, the pictures we see from inside this green and black Maserati. That's the sort of pictures you're getting when you're playing the game. It is really reality. Everything that happens, the different cars have got different characteristics, and having tried them, as you say, during the development period, I've driven some of these cars, and it's exactly as you drive the cars in reality. The most realistic motoring game I've seen so far.
Well, it can't quite get the adrenaline rushing in the same way, I'm sure, that actually having a Maserati to play with can do. And Michael Bartels is really hanging on. And in fact, Philip Pater's not getting much further away after 4 laps, 2 seconds up the road, but no further. And half of that he pulled out in the first lap, and the other half of it in the second lap. So tyres now fully up to temperature. There's Carl Wendlinger, and he shares the car with Andrea Bertolini, that's currently lying in 4th position. There it is, with the yellow door mirrors on the Red Bull Racing car. And Carl looking pretty relaxed there, just as relaxed as he was at dinner last night. He was out having a quiet evening in a little restaurant in town here. And the Russian Age Racing team, as with the Maserati teams, keeping an eye on everything. And particularly, David, of course, in these long-distance races, on the fuel economy. Now, that's one of the things that owners of brand new, as yet unraced by them cars, will have really struggled with over the wet practice days, is trying to measure and work out accurately how much these things are drinking, because that might turn the race if you underestimate your fuel consumption or overestimate it and fill too much and pit too often. You could give the race away just as easily as running dry.
Certainly, when the cars are experienced, you've been doing them all year long, you know exactly what fuel consumption you get for the different circuits. This circuit's quite high on fuel consumption, being as fast as it is and being flat out for so long. And certainly they only had one dry practice in order to try and work out some fuel consumption on these cars. Now, obviously, some of them have been run last year, so you could have some previous knowledge. But certainly the Maseratis didn't race this time last year, so it's all new to them here at Monza. But they'll have been working out, they'll have a good idea what they want from fuel consumption, but they will play it very carefully at the beginning. And I'm sure when it comes to the first pit stops, rather than stopping at the 55-minute or 1 hour period, I think you'll see them coming in around about 50 minutes to top up, and then they'll measure the amount of fuel that goes in, and from that they'll be able to work out very accurately exactly how many litres per lap they're actually using. And then from that they'll be able to work out for the rest of the race how they're going to get through it.
Bouchou's making his move. Bartels made a mistake and down into the second chicane. Bouchou very nearly got through into the Roggia through Curva Grande. He was all over the side of Bartels, but Bartels taking the tighter inside line, covering just slightly less distance, managing to hold on. Now that will certainly help Philip Pater ease away a little bit. That will have given away at least half a second from this chasing group to the leader. 2.2 ahead at the beginning of this 5th lap, and that will be closer to 3 seconds for Philip Pater. And tempers are going to, well, not be frayed yet, but patience will be starting to wear thin. Bartels definitely the slowest of this group, by the way that everybody continually bunches up behind him. And you just know that Bouchou could take on the leader if he had half a chance. There's one of his 2 Russian teammates watching. He's the 2 co-drivers in that car been running together a long time, Nikolai Fomenko and Alexei Vasiliev. And they are really bringing in Bouchou for his aggression, his experience, his expertise. On board again with Bartels. David, a lot of work on the steering.
That's a long corner, that coming round onto the start and finish straight. You're saying about, you thinking Bartels is the slowest of that group. Looking at the actual lap times, the best lap times they've had, there is less than 1/10 of a second between the first 5 cars on their best lap time so far. So it is just so close. That's the way it's working. They arrive there at the end of that straight into 6th gear, all the way down into 1st gear to get around that very tight chicane, and accelerating out off round the Curva Grande, big long curve round back into the 2nd chicane. After that we can see the gap now down to 2.5 seconds, so it looks like this pack is actually starting to reel back in the leader. who's been having it his own way at this moment in time. He's been able to concentrate on what he's doing and not worry what's behind him. But all these guys are worrying about not only what's in front but what's behind as well, and they're really having a very busy time of it. So at the moment we've got one Ferrari sandwiched by two Maseratis either side, and Bouchou is known for his aggressiveness, known for being very, very quick indeed, and mainly in Vipers originally, and did Vipers for so many years, but he really is making this Russian age Ferrari having its presence felt amongst all these Maseratis that everyone was expected to be at the front.
Yeah, he is absolutely flying, and the only thing between a Maserati top four from the two Maserati teams, but Bertolini behind him. There is Babini in 5th place in the number 10 car. Bertolini behind in the second of the Red Bull cars, really feisty on that last lap, almost putting in a move down into the Roggia on Christophe Bouchou in that Russian age Ferrari. So Ferrari and Maserati, Modena's finest, and of course so closely related, well, thinly I suppose. Of course the 550s built without any Ferrari input by the ProDrive concern Dave Richards' operation in Banbury in Oxfordshire, but the Maseratis built by Ferrari Maserati Racing, built on the F50 Ferrari platform, and very, very finely developed by Ferrari's wind tunnel engineers as well. It has been a little hamstrung in terms of small wings and small air restrictors to try and rein in its runaway supremacy, or expected runaway supremacy, and already 7 laps in, the leaders are catching the slower of the GT2 cars. GT2 incidentally being led by Mike Rockenfeller from Tim Sugden, the two Gruppa M teammates battling for the lead of the category. So Monza, the opening minutes of the first FIA GT race of the season, and Maserati and Ferrari battling for the lead. The leader is the poleman, Philip Pater, in the first of the Red Bull Maseratis. Michael Bartels second in the Vitaphone racing car, turquoise and black. Third, the only Ferrari in this lead group, is the Russian age racing car with the headlights ablaze, Christophe Bouchou up, starting that car with its 3-driver lineup. Then Andrea Bertolini, the Maserati factory test driver, all over Bouchou, trying to melt the paint off the back of that Russian age car with his headlamps, and right behind him, similarly close, Fabio Babini, a former front runner in the Ferrari 550 Maranellos. Then the next gap is Pedro Lamy and Mike Hasemans. Lamy in a Ferrari 550 Maranello run by the Labra racing team, and Hasemans in the brand new, as yet unraced C5R Pratt & Miller built factory Chevy Corvette, and he only received it last weekend. It's had half a day's testing at Spa, and they are still desperately trying to find out exactly what makes this yellow beast tick. Well, the one common thing here, David, is bags of horsepower and proper engineering. These cars all pucker race cars, and as Bertolini just cuts off the nose there of Babini in the number 10 car behind him, that was all because I think Christophe Bouchou might have had a little bit of a lunge at Michel Bartels and not made it through, and Bouchou in the Ferrari just jamming them up behind him. Coming up now behind Gerald Reed's Porsche. We've already passed the Vonka Racing Porsche in the GT2 category. Those are some of the family-driven gentleman driver cars in the GT2 category. And these Italian supercars all really setting to again. Let's have a look here. Well, Bartels, Bouchou just with a little late in there, really trying to harass Bartels. And in fact, the two Maseratis were having a bit of a go each other before that. But Bartels makes the break past the Reed car, and Christophe Bouchou will be desperate to do so before they get to Ascari. The Maserati stream by as well. But of course, David, when you're in a GT2 car, it's so critical to keep your eyes on the mirrors, because the rate of closing of these Italian supercars, or all the supercars up at the front, is really phenomenal on the GT2 Porsches.
Well, you can see that. I mean, we're only 8 laps into this race, and already that's about 4 of the GT2 cars have been passed by the leader. So yes, they arrive, and I'm so quickly, you've seen there from that inside picture, from inside the cockpit, how quickly you arrive behind that Porsche and just straight past it, and then on you go and onto this start and finish straight up there. But the Porsches, you know, they've got their own race, they've got their own class to try and win. So the agreement between all the drivers is that when you come up behind the slower car will stick to his line, he will stick to the racing line. whatever he's doing, because he's got his own race to get on and get involved with. So it's up to the faster cars to find their way around. They've either got to outbrake him, go around the outside of him, dive down the inside, whatever they want to do. But the guys in the slower cars will stick to their line and will not move out of the way purposefully for them. If they can see them coming from a long distance, then fine. They'll probably move out like we've seen Gerald Reed did with his red Porsche, move out of the way and let them carry on. If they've got lots of time to see that coming.
Into the pits comes a Celine, and that is the Graham Nash racing car number 7. In fact, the white Porsche they were just passing was another of Graham Nash's cars in the GT2 category. But Paolo Ruberti, well, that's a shame, sharing with the Swiss Joel Mathias, an ex-Formula 3000 driver. And Ruberti really showed a lot of speed in that car last year, the Italian driver, another ex-Formula 3000 driver, had a little bit of European touring car action after moving up from 3000, and now trying to make a career for himself in sports cars. And the Graham Nash car, well, not quite the way it should have been for the new regulations this year, David, when it arrived. So they've had a lot of work on their plates this weekend, and it looks like that continues.
Yeah, whatever problem they've got, they've just taken the engine cover off the back of the car, so it looks as they're going to have a look at the engine. They've got a bit of a problem there. I can't see that coming back out in a hurry, to be perfectly honest. But the battle at the front carries on exactly the same as before. We've got the leader now. His lead's been cut down to about 2 seconds instead of the sort of 3 seconds we had earlier on. But these 4 cars behind are just not giving up. They are nose to tail. And that little bit further back in the background, you can see the red Ferrari with the yellow Corvette in behind that. So the pressure is on right from the beginning. We know it's a 3-hour race, or 500 kilometres, whichever comes first. And because of the speed here at Monza and the very, very fast circuit is, we expect it to last just less than 3 hours and actually go for the 500 kilometre distance. But, you know, these guys, you think they were in a 5-lap sprint. They're out there to try and do whatever they want. There you can see what the Porsche does. The Porsche, the slow white car, sticking to its line around the inside, and therefore the faster cars have got to go round the outside in order to get there. You can see the teammates standing there in the pit lane watching the screens to see exactly what's happening in their car. They feel that they want to be in there. Racing drivers always want to be in the car. They want to be standing in the pits watching their teammate. They want to be in that car racing. You can see the 2 drivers there. They've got their bottles of fluid, special fluid mixtures that some of these drivers have, and they'll be sucking away on that, making sure they're taking in lots of fluid, because when you get in these cars, they are closed cockpit cars, so therefore they get very warm, and they've got very big engines in them, generating a lot of heat, so you do need a lot of fluid on board. Make sure you're nice and cool when you get into the car. So that fluid, constantly you'll see the drivers sipping away at their bottles of water before they actually have to get into the car. And here we can see them coming out of now the Sky chicane, out across the curb, as you use all of that curb to get the maximum drive out of that chicane, down the back straight, all the way up into 6th gear. And down that straight, you're looking at something in the region of 180 miles an hour in these cars. And that's pretty quick. Down the front straight, they're going around the Parabolica at the moment. And round there, they've got a minimum speed of 90 miles an hour round that what is very tight corner in actual fact. And then down the straight, at the end of the straight, they'll be pulling their highest speed here around about 185, just over 185 miles an hour as they come down the straight and braking all the way down to a first gear chicane and a minimum speed of around about 40 miles an hour. You can see how tight they are. Oh, now we're going to have a pass maneuver. Didn't quite work. We thought the Maserati there was going to dive up the inside of the Ferrari, but what happened, he had to back out of it when he couldn't do it, and now he's lost a place because of that. So that's how close it is. You can have an attack maneuver, but if that attack maneuver doesn't work, the guy behind you is waiting to pick up your place. So it's very, very difficult. Everybody's so evenly matched.
It really is dog eat dog, isn't it? And Fabio Bobini there, the man now in the less enviable position. It's often easier to follow from behind. Well, the Ferrari, perhaps again, just not quite getting off the corner quite as quickly as the Maserati driver had hoped, and Andrea Bertolini losing out. There's Bobini's teammate sitting and watching proceedings, Thomas Biaggi, the former FIA GT champion, of course. 2 years ago, he won the title in a Ferrari 550 Maranello run by the Scuderia Italia team. But Bushu there in his 550 Ferrari, now the front-running 550. And really still trying to find a way to unlock that Maserati's defences in front of him. Really now getting into the core of the GT2 field is race leader Philip Pater. Headlights on the front-running cars. And I suppose most of the Maseratis will flick their lamps on as well as soon as they get into traffic, because, David, you really have to have your wits about you when you're in the quick cars as well as when you're in the slow cars. And you were saying about staying on the racing line, that is the accepted way for a slow car to be passed. And the reason for that is predictability. At least if you stay on the racing line, a driver coming up in a faster car has some idea of where you're likely to go next. If you're offline, then he really hasn't got the faintest idea what your thoughts are. And so, well, you know, he has to get round the corner somewhere. You can't expect the cars to come to a complete halt, but nobody wants to give up in this lead battle. And so in that Coca-Cola racing car, István Rush and Josef Venk. It's István Rush who started that, one of the two Slovakian entered cars. He really had nowhere to go, did he? He had 5 cars trying to come around him, and he was still trying to make the corner himself.
Yeah, he just went round, he stuck to his line basically, and he was on the inside. One of the Maseratis, unfortunately, had to back out and lose a little bit of time. But I'm pretty sure he will see a replay. He's gone in, the Maserati's gone in beside him. He's bumped over the curb. You can see him bumping over the curb. He's lost a bit of time there. That leaves the other Maserati behind, the Red Bull Maserati, losing out a little bit of time. But you'll find that he'll be straight back up there in no time at all. But now Bouchou, he's sandwiched between these two black and green Vitaphone Racing Maseratis. It's bad enough just having, you know, 2 different Maseratis, one in front, one behind. But now he's got 2 teammates, one in front and one behind. And that's going to worry him even more, I would think. You can see now, as you said, he's getting through all these various cars, and the cars at the back of the Ferrari, who's been working away very well indeed in 6th place. He's managed to get through the back markers probably a little bit quicker and caught up with a bunch of 4 to try and close that gap down a little bit. But they can flash the lights on to let the little guys know, the guys in the Porsches, the GT2 cars, with the big lights coming up behind. Just something else for them to see, to say that, yes, there's a faster car coming. And we've seen the marshals on the side of the grid waving like there's no tomorrow.
Bouchou coming down the outside into the first chicane as Bouchou makes the move for 2nd place, and Michael Bartels just holds on. So Michael Bartels just hanging on there, and Christophe Bouchou trying to make the move into 2nd place, but losing out. Wow, that was a brave effort from Bouchou. They're coming up behind Sean Balfe and Jamie Derbisher's Mosler at the moment, the red and white machine, but that's allowed the Vitaphone Racing team cars now to run 2nd and 3rd. Bouchou lost out. Bertolini has made up most of the ground that he lost in traffic, but with him is coming Pedro Lamy and the Corvette. So Fabio Bobini now up into 3rd place as the 2nd and 3rd and 4th cars come up behind Jamie Derbisher. Here's how it happened. Christophe Bouchou in the tow, pulls out. He's going the long way around because the next corner is a right-hand entry. Under braking and just hanging on by the skin of his teeth, Michael Bartels. Bouchou runs out of road, has to go over the curb, bounces off here, can't get on the gas, and there you go. That was a great opportunity taken there by Fabio Bobini. That's what makes or breaks races. Bouchou really set that pass up well, just couldn't quite carry it off. And Bobini, like a whippet, was right in there, snapping up that position. And now it's he that is pressuring Michael Bartels to get past his teammate in 2nd and 3rd position. Those cars are running. And of course, David, now the cardinal rule of racing comes in. Not the cardinal rule that means you must beat your teammate, but that other cardinal rule.
You must not take your teammate off. No, that's one thing every team manager tells their teammates, not to take their teammates off. But Bobini's made it through twice by other people's trying to overtake, and he's just simply driven past his teammate down the inside. He made the move straight through, so Bobini's come from the back of that pile of 4 and all the way through to the front, now into 2nd place.
Yeah, so Bobini's gone from 5th to 2nd in 14 laps, and I was just wondering from the onboard camera whether we'd see Bouchou coming spearing past Bartels, but he wasn't close enough to take advantage. Bobini's on the move, and so too from behind is Bertolini, the 2nd Red Bull car. Bobini in 2nd, still holding up Christophe Bouchou is Michael Bartels, now in the 2nd of the turquoise and black cars. And this, well, this is what Bouchou would have liked to have done. Come down the inside of Bartels. He just couldn't get across to the inside. He was forced to go around the outside. And I'm not sure that Bartels was maybe expecting that move to come from his teammate quite so soon after he'd appeared in his mirrors ahead of the Ferrari. but Bartels has been passed, and it's now Fabio Babini who sets off after Philip Pater to try and make it an all-Maserati battle for the lead rather than a procession. On board with Bartels, twitching it out of the Ascari chicane. And down the run to the Parabolica, and again he's got Bouchou tucked in, and Bouchou's got Bertolini tucked in, and about 5 car lengths back is Lamy, and a car length behind him is the Corvette. That's Hazeman's in 7th place. Jaime Melo, 20 seconds behind that battle. He's in 8th place in the all-black Ferrari 575 Maranello, and that is the best placed 575. So the Pucker factory-built Ferrari 575 is being left behind as before by the 550s and also by the Maseratis. Well, Bouchou again around the outside, again can't get past Bartels, this time for 3rd place rather than 2nd. And Bertolini is right behind, looking for a mistake. But it's Philip Pater that leads as Babini starts to run him down in 2nd. So the pit wall watching as the Vitaphone Maseratis are 2nd and 3rd, but again Bouchou taking a run through Curva Grande to try and make a move at the Roggia, couldn't get it done, and again Bertolini all over the back of him. David, this is real cut and thrust racing. People do tend to write off endurance racing as being a long drone all about fuel, but you can't argue here that there's anything than great racing going on, and it's so busy in fact that we haven't even had a time to turn the cameras to the front of the GT2 battle, where there's still a fierce race going on between Mike Rockenfeller and Tim Sugden at the lead of that battle.
Now these guys, they've really got the bit between their teeth, I think, because it's a new season, because the cars are new. They're just out there, and they've let the guys go with the cars to see what happens with them, find out what the fuel consumption is on this first run. And certainly it's more like a sprint race at this moment in time with these cars all so close together. Yes, people keep thinking about endurance racing, about cars being spread out, one a lap ahead of another, and you're not sure who's where. But here you can see exactly where everybody is. They're really close together, and nobody's getting away. The leader now, he still only has a couple of seconds lap lead over everybody else.
Yeah, it's down to 1.8 at the end of the lap as they come across the line. Bartels in 3rd, Bouchou in 4th, Bertolini in 5th, Lamy in 6th, Hazeman's in 7th. And then the first big gap in the field, around 20 seconds back, it was Jaime Melo chasing Walter Lechner Jr. or Robert Lechner. Not sure still who is in that car. Unfortunately, the timing screen just says Lechner. They're unrelated. Robert Lechner is a German driver. I beg your pardon, is an Austrian driver. And Walter Lechner Jr., well, Walter's Walter Lechner's son, quite clearly. Robert, in fact, the older son. So the timing screen, though, does not tell us which one is at the helm. It was supposed to be Robert starting, and that rather suggests to me that Walter Lechner Jr. is not fit. Chris Crawford engineering that car. David, he engineered the Vitaphone Celine to great effect last year. Not only great team strategy, but fuel economy as well, and some really smart decisions there. This year, it looks as though he will be running with Franz Conrad on that number 5, Lechner and Conrad car. And he was saying last night, probably going to have to put Franz in unless Walter Lechner Jr. staged a fairly major health recovery.
Yes, that's a bit unfortunate that he's not very fit at this moment in time, because, he was the quickest of the drivers. But as you said, with the engineer in charge, he knows exactly these cars. He ran them all last year's Franz Conrad Celine S7 cars. And he knows them extremely well to get the best fuel consumption, how to get the best out of the team. So while they're not really up there at this moment in time, I think as the race goes along, and certainly towards the end of the 3 hours, you'll see them not being that far away. They'll just chip away. They'll be able to run at their pace. They certainly cannot run at the pace that these Maseratis are running at the front, and Bouchou with a 550 Ferrari, the Russian age Ferrari. But Bouchou now, you can see, he's coming under pressure. We reckon that he's just about to lose another place. He's certainly on the wrong side of the road, going into his cane. Rubbing bodywork there. He didn't want to give way, but he had to give way in the end. He was on the wrong side, and he's about to lose another place. Now he's moving out to try and keep Pedro Lamy in the red Ferrari out of the way, but he can rub as much as he wants. If Pedro can stay there, he will be on the right side of the road when he arrives at the second chicane. So Pedro's managed to stay there right around the outside, and when they come to brake now, that will be Pedro's corner. There he goes, and Bouchou, unfortunately, has lost another place. That's not what we normally see from Bouchou. We must say he's normally moving forward rather than moving backwards. But he's been pushing very, very hard on this car all the way through, and he's really made no mistakes. But with people trying to pass each other, him trying to pass other people, and then having to back out of it for some reason, people have got past him. But certainly that time, you can see here, this is where he was having a go, and because he was having a go at Maserati, that allowed him to come out to that corner slowly. There's Pedro, he's managed to come out quicker. He's got the right line going into the next corner after that next chicane, and he was in there, and unfortunately Bouchou loses another place. But I can't see him giving up. You don't give up on this type of race, and you've got to keep pushing and pushing. But we can see now right up behind Bouchou is come Hazelman's in the Corvette. Very much different car, big block engine, big V8 engine, different sounding car altogether to the 12-cylinder Ferrari. It makes a real roar as it goes past, and Hazelman's, as we said earlier, has only just got hold of this car about a week ago, and so the car to great effect. Very, very victorious both in the American Le Mans series and at Le Mans, the 24-hour race itself, with that car from America, so it'll be right there as well. We've got the cars now starting to spread a little bit. We've got the leader only half a second in front now, so you can see that's the two cars. There we are, the lead car and the second car right round the outside, lapping for the second time the Reed Porsche, that black and red Porsche, as they're going round, passing one of the slower Ferraris into the chicane. Ferrari takes its line, so the second of the Maseratis had to back out. As I said earlier, the slower cars take their line, and the fast cars are going to find a way through. The faster car could have dived down the inside, but it would only have caused damage. You certainly don't want to damage these cars, because they've got to get to the end of 3 hours. So if you've got bits hanging off them after only 26 minutes or 34 minutes worth of running, then you're not really going to get to the end of the race.
Well, the Ferrari they were passing was the second Labra car of Lilian Brinner, the Spa 24-hour winner last year. And a classic move, under braking into the Variante Goodyear, the first chicane here at Monza. Andrea Bertolini finally getting the move in on Michel Bartels, and maybe Bouchou, David, starting to pay the penalty for that early tussle, that very ferocious tussle at the front. I wonder whether both of their sets of tyres have just paid a little too much of a price for hanging on at the lead of the group. There is the second Labra Ferrari then in the middle of that group, and it's Pedro Lamy coming up behind in the lead Labra car that he shares with Gabriele Gardel, who of course is in sixth position, just about to, or in fact in fifth place now, just about to pass their teammates coming up from behind. The Maserati flashing, as the Lamborghini, Peter Cox, he's already been into the pits once. Incidentally, Paolo Roberti lost 1 lap in the pits in the Graham Nash Motorsport Saleen. The Maserati has been into the pits as well, and in contact there with one of the GPC cars. That would have been Jean-Denis Delatraz and Andrea Piccini's 575 Maranello. So unusual names to see that far back, Cox and Delatraz and Piccini. So Philippe Pater leads, Maserati, Fabio Bobini second, Maserati, Andrea Bertolini third, Maserati, Michel Bartels now in fourth place, Maserati, Pedro Lamy in fifth position in his Ferrari, Christophe Bouchou sixth in a Ferrari, Mike Haseman seventh in the Corvette, and Robert Lechner eighth position at the moment in his Saleen. We'll be back in a moment with more continuing live action from our FIA GT race here in Monza. Stay with us. Welcome back live to Monza. Ferrari versus Ferrari. Christophe Bouchou doesn't like being passed, and trying to put the move back in on Pedro Lamy into the Ascari chicane. He manages to do so, retains that position, or retakes that position as best non-Maserati. Maseratis filling the top 4 places. David Leslie, Pedro Lamy got by him on the last lap. Bouchou having that position back, thank you very much. He's now fifth.
Yeah, Bouchou certainly, as we said earlier, doesn't really want to be down there. He really wanted to be up with the lead group, with the Maseratis. As you said, there's a possibility that he really was pushing very, very hard at the beginning of the race, and that really took a bit of a toll on his tyres, and he's now having to sort of settle back into a bit of a pace. and maybe cannot keep quite the same pace as what the Maseratis are. Everyone was expecting the Maseratis to be at the front, even with the restrictions they've got, the smaller restrictor for the engine and the smaller rear wing. But you know, they've shown that so far in this race they're still very, very quick indeed. Whether the organisers decide to put some further restrictions on them to bring them back to the pace of the Ferraris and of the Corvette, we'll have to wait and see in future races. But certainly very healthy at the moment, these four Maseratis up front with the Ferraris chasing them. You can see here the Corvette trying to get past one of the other Ferraris that he's lapping at this moment in time. Bushu now, having got past Lamy, trying to stretch himself away and get him back, or try and get himself back into touch with the Maseratis. And he'll be trying to use the various fan markers to do that.
Just behind these battles as they work their way through the lead now of the GT2 category and come up behind Paolo Ruberti. There is our race leader now with Fabio Bobini right behind him. Third place is Andrea Bertolini. The Red Bull cars running first and third. And coming up behind the second of the Graham Nash Motorsport Salines and the Ram Racing Saline. You can see the two Gruppa M cars, the red, white and blue Porsches. Those are leading the GT2 category. The first one is car number 66. Now, those are the two Porsche salaried drivers. Rocky is running in at the moment, Mike Rockenfeller and Mark Lieb. They have swapped positions, really, with Sascha Maassen and Lucas Luhr. Maassen and Luhr racing back in the US for Porsche, and Rocky and Mark Lieb, well, Mark's been over here on and off for the last couple of seasons, but Mike Rockenfeller been racing in ALMS for the last 2 seasons. He's back over here now, and they lead the 88 car. Tim Sugden, who of course British fans will very much associate with Gruppa M and with winning the championship last year. Tim Sugden is sitting in the 88 car that he shares with Emmanuel Collard, another Porsche salary driver. So Manu, who like Mark Lieb helped the Porsche team win drivers' championships and the manufacturers' championship in the GT class, GT2 class, NGT as it was called last year and the year before. But he is now alongside Tim Sugden, and that lineup should remain solid for the season. So Sugden, who missed out on a couple of British races last year and did a few FIA GT races in their place, will be running in that car hopefully all season long. And at the moment that looks to be the class of the field very much. You don't go far wrong when you're standing in a garage on a test day for your first full season in a two-car Porsche supported lineup where you've got Norbert Singer overseeing everything. He may have retired, but you never really retire when you're a Porsche. Racing's in their blood. So the Gruppa M team very much supported by the Porsche factory here. It's one of the two official factory supported teams, one in the ALMS, one here in the FIA GT. And of course, David Leslie, the rumour around Porsche is that they are developing a prototype car, an LMP2 prototype car, as a potential customer car. They certainly seem to be sounding people out at the moment, and everybody is waiting for Porsche to return to sports car racing at the front of the field. Of course, with such a history of winning at Le Mans, everybody looks to them permanently to return to their glory days.
Porsche, certainly, it's in their blood. They've been racing for many, many years, and in the top class. But for the last few seasons, they haven't been racing this Porsche 911 here, and it's been very successful, you have to say. It's won its class on a regular basis, and they can't take anything away from that. They've done a very, very good job. But they're looking to get back into the bigger classes, back into the prototype running class. They've been looking at it ever since they pulled out. They've never stopped looking to see what's going on within international motorsport. So it's nothing new that there is yet another rumour that Porsche will be coming back into international motorsport with a prototype car. They've always been designing a car. They've always had a car on the blocks. They keep in touch with the rules and regulations all the time. They have a good idea exactly what's happening within all the championships, where they want to be, and they will look at a long-term basis. They won't want to get involved in something that will only have 2 or 3 years to run. They'll want stability in the rules. They want to be able to build a car, because they do build cars for customers. As we see here this weekend, there's something like 9 cars here, all Porsche customer cars. And that's what Porsche do. They build good cars, they run them themselves as a manufacturer, but they sell direct copies that go just as fast to the privateers, and they can go and race against them and sometimes beat them.
Absolutely.
That's what they want to be. They want to be involved in motorsport at a proper level, but with cars that everyone can go out and race.
Very much so, and that's always been their ethos right from the word go, as you say. And at the moment, the RSR, or the GT3 line, let's say, the GT3R, RS and RSR is Porsche's most successful racing car ever, beating the 956, 962 line in terms of races, wins, points and championships, and certainly in terms of production. They have built hundreds and hundreds of these race cars. It's now in its fourth iteration as the RSR, and they're only allowed to change the spec on their car every 2 years, so that tells you how long it's been at the forefront of customer sports car racing. And I know from talking to Alan McNish and Bob Wallach that Porsche's last potential Le Mans winner, the V10 engine prototype that they built and tested just once, was by far and away the quickest thing that's ever been around the Weissach test track, and that was then mothballed. Porsche's attentions went into the road car that became the Cayenne. And of course, when you're a small company like Porsche, developing a brand new concept of road car like that just takes every last bean that you have, and you can't splurge tens of millions of marks, as they were then, or euros, on an international racing program. Well, down there is the number 5 car, the second of the Conrad cars. They're numbered 4 and 5. That, in fact, is the front-running one, or was the front-running one, with Robert Leshner. Bobby Verdenroe and Harold Becker's number 4 machine had an engine change after practice yesterday, and so they were relegated to the back of the field. But, engine changes after practice in Salines, unfortunately, aren't a particularly uncommon occurrence. Conrad had a few of those last year with engine blow-up and fires, but the number 5 car, it seems, well, the door was up. It looked as though it could have been a pit stop, but I'd be surprised if it was a scheduled one with still 2¼ hours to go.
It's a bit early for scheduled pit stops at this moment in time. I'll say give it another 5 minutes, they should be in. But having said that, have we see the first of them? Well,
maybe we've already said, you've already mentioned that it's not likely to go the full 3 hours, this 500-kilometre race, that due to the pace of the running, they might well come in short of the 3-hour maximum. It doesn't race for 3 hours, that's the maximum length. You've got to do the distance, and if you do the distance in the time, then that's the way it is. And here is our race leader then, Chris Buncombe and Roman Rusinov sharing with Philip Pater. So an Austrian, British and Russian lineup in that car, and he is certainly taking on fuel. And David, it looks as though, well, if they're going to only fuel twice, somebody's not getting a drive, because Philip Pater is very reluctant to hand the car over, and off he goes.
Yeah, that's right, they didn't change the driver then, and normally, when we see here one of the Vitaphone cars struggling to...
I think that was Bouchou and Bartels. Bouchou finally getting the move in on Bartels, Michel Bartels, because that is Bartels' teammate, who is now our race leader, Fabio Bobini. He was in second, don't forget, having coming up from 5th. And this is the run down to the second Lesmo. Yeah, Bartels just getting a little weave on there. Bouchou was on the inside line, and he didn't have anywhere to go. In fact, I think that's the first Lesmo. It's a little quicker through the second Lesmo. He would have gone probably quite a lot further off, but Bartels just saving that one by the skin of his teeth. And Bouchou getting his nose in there. Now they are starting with the pit stops properly, so 52 minutes for the shortest run. This is Lilian Brinner, shares with Enzo Calderari. They won, of course, the 24 Hours of Spa last year with Steve Zacchia. And the Lister coming in, I was about to mention that Justin Keane was up into 10th place in the Lister. And, we spoke to Lawrence just as we were running up to the booth. John Brooks getting run over by the team there, the photographer. And Lawrence was saying, when he's got the car on the perfect mapping, the fuel economy is great, but it misfires like nobody's business. So he's now had to back off the map, and it's guzzling the fuel. Lawrence Pierce, of course, used to be the man who would sit and wait till everybody had made their fuel stops before he brought the Lister in. But at the moment, it's a thirsty-looking Lister, and I think Justin Keane may well have run out of gas on the way into the pit. And of course, you might suggest that that was absolutely perfect guesstimate, but perhaps another half litre might have helped him. Out comes the number 2 car, our first real sight of that machine, the GPC car, Jean-Denis Delatraz and Andrea Pacini, and still the battling continues with the number 4 Conrad car coming around, Michel Bartels. Or is that Babini's number 10 car? No, it is Babini's 10 car, so about to put a lap down. Justin Keane strapping in Liz Halliday. and allowing the refuelers to do their job. Of course, refueling by far the longest part of the pit stop normally, all things being equal. And Liz, the American woman, is going to get a new set of rubber. So brand new sticker tyres go on, and they then presumably will stay on for Justin to do the third and final stint in the car, because I don't think anybody will be three-stopping on purpose here, David.
No, certainly not. They'll want to do it within 2 stops, and that'll be the plan for everybody. As you said earlier, they're a little bit unaware of exactly how many miles per gallon they're getting with these cars, because a lot of the cars are so new to the teams don't know what's happening with them. And that's why I suppose they've started coming in just that little bit earlier than we were expecting them, probably 5 minutes earlier than we were actually expecting them to arrive in the pits. But quite a few cars coming in already. Most of them will do a driver change and a tyre change as well as the refueling. Some of them will try and maybe in the second stop try and leave their tyres on for the last stint, which hopefully will be a little bit shorter, and not have the extra time in the pits in order to change the tyres. It has been done before. Depending on the tyre manufacturer you can sometimes do a double stint rather than anything else. And we see the lister there coming out and actually overtaking one of the blue Porsches. I'm not sure whether that Porsche was just coming out of his pit and was going slow, or whether he was just slowly driving up the pit lane. The pit lane does have a speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour, and all of these cars have a little switch inside them, whereby when you flick the switch, what happens then is that it restricts the car to 60 kilometers an hour, and that's what it will do when you hear it popping and banging as it goes along the pits in order to get to its pit box before they start working on it.
So Fabio Bobini staying out, Andrea Bertolini in second place, Christophe Bouchou now up to third, courtesy of good economy in the Russian age racing Ferrari. And there is the number 3 car, all in matte black unpainted carbon fibre, Jaime Melo and Jean-Philippe Belloc. They are the drivers there. Belloc, a very experienced Viper driver, long-serving FIA GT racer. Jaime Melo raced last year with mainly with Carl Wendlinger in the 575, so he knows